We'd like to welcome the people from PEG TV to our meeting, and it's being filmed for rebroadcast. Before we get started, we have some new people here, so let's go around the room and introduce each other, ourselves, and I'll start. I'm Billy Gillum from Rutland City, and I'm the new chair.
Sue Phoenix, representing Mendon.
Gabe McGuigan, representing Brandon.
Carrie Covey, I represent Proctor.
Dave Potter, Clarendon.
Ethan Pepin, citizen representative, Rutland City.
Bob Spalding, Castleton.
Rick Grabowski, Hubbardton.
Mark Shea, District Manager.
Brianna Franzoni, I'm the Program Manager.
Jet Brown, West Rutland.
And Greg Giles, he's the Treasurer.
And then folks online,
Folks online, could you introduce yourselves?
introduce yourself. We'll start with Jay. You can introduce yourself and what town you're from.
They got it muted.
Nancy, you're next.
Goodrow from Pittsburgh.
Bruce,
Bruce Dobbins, Wallingford.
and Eric.
He's just
Staff.
watching in.
Okay,
He's just watching in.
and then Teresa,
She's on the agenda.
she's on the agenda. So I don't see the attorney, so we will not go into executive session. So Teresa, we're gonna move you up.
So are we,
okay.
are we doing executive session at the end?
What we're gonna do as soon as the attorney shows up.
I don't think the attorney's showing up.
I thought the email I saw, he was gonna be here.
I mean, we still have to go into an executive session whether he shows up or not.
At the end.
Well, we got two of them, one at the beginning and one at the end.
So,
We can just
um,
combine them both at the end.
So I need a motion to adjust the agenda to do that. And you,
Motion to adjust the agenda.
to move the executive sessions into number 10, both of them at the same time?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Second it, okay. All in favor say aye, and the people
Aye.
on the internet, raise your hand. Bruce, say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, we're all saying unanimous, okay. All right, Teresa, we're gonna bring you on now. You're next on the agenda to give us the report on an update on the HR program.
You'll see it on next page.
Page 1.
Everybody.
Hi there.
So, Mark and Greg and I have continued to work on the projects that were identified in the assessment, the HR assessment that we've done. So some of this is going to be a little bit of a repeat. So we thought since there are new board members, it might be helpful to just zip through the entire list, even though some of it was completed in February. And I believe, Mark, you provided everyone with a handout, right?
I did.
Of what I'm
Yeah.
going to review.
Yes.
Yes.
So the priorities when we reviewed the HR needs, if you will, were outlined high priorities, medium priorities, low priorities. Some of this is going to be a little bit of a repeat for those of you who have been part of the process. High priorities come from the perspective of low-hanging fruit as well as regulatory and compliance. And that's how we just kind of mapped everything out. Again, I'm going to tell you how much I enjoy working with Mark and Greg. They are super responsive. They do a really nice job of just making sure the process keeps moving and that we're able to check things off the list. So the first item that we have under high priorities is the Form I-9. The Form I-9 is required for all new employees upon their date of hire, and there are time frames that this form must be completed. The purpose of the form is to identify that you're eligible to work in the United States and that you are who you say you are. So they've all been pulled from individual perspectives. personnel file. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is that on my end? And I don't know if it's distracting or if anyone else is doing it.
We're gonna put us on
On?
pause, okay? We'll put us on mic shut off so we don't have that.
Can you turn these mics off?
No problem. Oh,
No, I think it's, I
okay,
think
great,
it's, I
thank
think
you.
it's perfect.
So with the Form
It's us, it's us
I-9,
feeding back.
there isn't anything that says you have to keep the forms all together or in an employee, personnel file. I look at this functionally. These are forms that can be audited by both the Department of Labor and USCIS, that used to be called Immigration and Control. So my recommendation was pull them out of the files, put them in a binder. So if you ever were audited, you can just produce the binder and not have to spend the time pulling that pertinent information for the purpose of this audit. So it's a functional task. That's all been done. It's the lists have been trued up for current employees and separated employees. We've gone through, we've reviewed them. Greg has done a really nice job of pulling all that information to make sure we have one for every employee. They have to be kept for 6 years past the date of end of employment, and that's different for municipalities. All of that has been completed, so yay, another thing checked off our list. That was in process the last time that we met. We also reviewed the new hire process. We had completed retitling the offer letter and just tidying that up a little bit, removing the reference to asking for certain types of documents for I-9s. It's best that we provide the list of acceptable documents to the new hires that have been offered a job and let them decide what they're going to bring so that we don't run into any difficulty with potential discrimination when we do a look back on who was asked to provide what. The new offer letter has been implemented for both hourly and salaried employees. We also added a Vermont Earned Sick Leave handout to the new hire packet. In the state of Vermont, employers, including municipalities, are required to inform employees that they're eligible for hours under paid time off for reasons under the Vermont Earned Sick Leave Act. So we just wanted to make sure that they were informed of that in a more documentable process. So we added that to the packet. We also added some things to our list, and what we added and completed are dividing the new hire and the onboarding from one checklist into two. So there's a nice handoff between Mark, who does part of the onboarding, and Greg, who does the other part of the onboarding. We added what we're calling a personnel action form that documents when you're hiring someone, when someone gets a raise, when someone moves from one department to another department, when someone ends their employment with the organization, that we have one form that kind of allows us to follow that process regardless of the circumstance. We added a document called the Acknowledgement of Receipt of Company Property, so that if we hand out things like laptops or keys or codes or any of those sorts of things that are specific to the organization, we're documenting that in a more formal process. And again, what I would want folks to recognize is that it isn't that this wasn't happening before. It's that we have tidied up the process and made it more streamlined. So that's another document that we've added. There are some employees who are responsible for operating company-owned vehicles. And also there are times when employees may do some errands for the company and use their personal vehicles. So we added and completed implementing a company-owned vehicle form and a personally owned vehicle form to the new hire packet. So before I move on, because I tend to move on, or I tend to go through this pretty quickly, I'm going to press pause and ask, does anyone have any questions now that I've gone through that section?
I have a question. So on the last two, it says,
Hearing none and seeing that no one
I
has.
have-
No,
any
she-
Hold it, hold it.
Continue.
Turn our
I
mic on.
have a question.
Turn them
We
back.
also looked at personnel files
We'll
get
and
there.
medical files.
She's not looking.
So again, this is really tidying up the process
What's her
that you
name?
had.
No, it's
It's
Mark's
really
thing.
important that organizations,
Teresa?
whether private sector or
Teresa, we got a
public
question.
sector,
Teresa,
have
can't.
We're muted.
files that
This
include
isn't on.
It is too.
information that
good.
is only
There,
appropriate.
now it is.
Yeah, I can do it too.
Hold-
Can you hear us now?
Can you hold up, Teresa? We had a question, but you couldn't hear us.
We had it on.
We had you
pause
muted.
To the interference.
So I have
Carrie's-
a couple
Harry's
questions.
got a question.
So on the bottom, the company-owned and personally owned vehicles, it says the document is being sent to the league for review. I just wanted to know when that was sent to the league.
I apologize.
It,
Getting a robocall.
I could,
Mark,
Yep.
you were following up on that, and I apologize. I may have needed to, said it's completed because we sent it for review and haven't implemented that. Thank you for the point of clarification, Carrie.
just this week, to answer your question, just this week, the VLCT hired a new attorney that specializes in HR issues.
So,
And this person is slowly getting on board. We've started sending forms to her, and I'm hoping to get some response. But
so what day this week?
I didn't actually send those ones. I sent other ones to her on, what day did we meet, Teresa? We met, Jesus,
Oh, my goodness.
I know,
We met earlier this week. And, oh, wait, it
It's
was,
Thursday?
I think we met on Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday morning.
So-
So, but these didn't get sent?
Those, not these two. I still haven't heard a
So
response
they
from the
have
other
not
ones.
been sent?
Right.
So when will you be sending these?
I could send these out tomorrow, but the person's still getting on board. And if she hasn't responded to
Right.
the other ones I sent to her, it's gonna take some time for her to respond to these ones, I would imagine.
So one of the things that may not be familiar to folks is that one of their longtime HR folks at VLCT did, I guess, well, she did enter employment, kind of take a leave of absence, but she actually left the league. And they hadn't hired anyone to replace her. They were in that process. And the good news is that Jill has returned to the league, which is wonderful news for everyone. She's an amazing person, an amazing resource to municipalities, and she has just returned. So to Mark's point, we've been getting things off to the league. At the same time, they are kind of inundated and digging out from her absence and the fact that they haven't been able to replace her. So she's now back on board. So some of these things are in process. So I apologize for a bit of confusion here because completed meant that Mark and I had completed our section of it. And it's a little misleading because it is in process that he's sending some of these forms to the league. So we'll tidy that up for our next update. But Carrie, thank you so much for, asking for clarification on that. Any other questions before I dive back in? Okay.
Nope.
All right. So with personnel and medical files, it is really important for us to pay attention to what can and cannot be in a personnel file. Medical files, as I've said before, I have no idea why we title them medical files, but it really is all of that bit of information that shouldn't be in a personnel file. So those would be forms that are leave of absence forms, enrollment forms for your insurances, information that is more of a personal, sometimes a medical nature that should not be kept in a personnel file. So Greg has done a great job of pulling that information apart. The personnel files that currently existed There is a second file called a medical file. They are being kept properly, and the information has been properly distributed between the two forms. We've also implemented what we're calling a new employee information form, and that's simply a form that we would have all employees fill out at time of hire, as well as new enrollment, or when any changes occur with their address, their phone number, their email address, emergency contact information. And as I said, they were the information of transferring anything that would be medical in nature would be in a new medical file. We've also teased apart documents that were in personnel files. And again, I don't want to give the impression in any way that there's a problem here from a regulatory and compliance perspective, as much as when we were looking at the files, we were also asking the question, functionally, what makes the most sense? So functionally, pulling out workers' comp information, functionally pulling out the EOE forms that ask information about your gender, about your ethnicity, and so forth, are pulled out of the personnel files. Information regarding the Vermont Declaration of Healthcare Coverage, all of that has been pulled out and filed separately. Functionally, the Vermont Declaration of Healthcare Coverage, that's an auditable form. It must be disposed of every 3 years. Much easier if you were audited to be able to say, hey, here are our forms all in one file so they can be audited versus having to go in and pull them separately from each personnel file. In addition to the fact that it's much easier when that 4th year comes around to take those forms that are now needing to be disposed of properly and just dispose of them all at once versus having to go back to the personnel files. So that's what that is about. This next section about exploring opportunities for forms to be included in Peachtree electronically. That is an ongoing process. One of the goals that the organization has is to replace those hard copy documents and make sure that we have a secure way of uploading those and keeping them electronically. The personnel policy manual, I recommended early on, put that on hold so that we can take care of some of these other items. And so that's something to be discussed at a future date. The organization does have the responsibility for making sure safety and sexual harassment and harassment trainings are done. We were able to confirm, and this is a carryover from our last meeting, that the OSHA 10 does not replace employer-required trainings. And what Mark is in the process of doing and has completed is to identify what OSHA trainings need to be performed that are customized to the work site. We already met, and Mark was kind enough to include me with in the meeting with the Vermont League of Cities and Town representative who handles safety and workers' comp for the league. So that has been completed. In process is developing and then implementing OSHA safety training. In process is also identifying, which Mark has identified, some folks who are recommended to be able to handle some sexual harassment training and harassment trainings, and making sure that those resources are available so that that can be implemented. Mark is again in process of developing a training and having it reviewed by one of the chosen trainers so that then the training can be provided to employees and supervisors at the organization. So before I move on to medium priorities, I will press pause again and ask if there are any questions.
Any questions?
Just the medical file, isn't that covered by HIPAA? So all the information in it is like top secret except for the employee and the medical personnel.
Just like all personnel.
So,
Yeah, you got to turn that off again. There you go.
Yeah, she,
Go ahead, Teresa, you're gonna answer that.
She missed the first part of the question.
Did you miss the first part of the question?
Mark's muted us again.
There you go.
There we go.
Person talk. Go ahead, talk.
Please repeat the question she asked.
the medical file, isn't that covered by HIPAA? All the information is just between the person whose name is on it and any medical personnel aboard.
I probably am gonna have to look up a little bit more information. So HIPAA, you're correct, it's specific to medical information. And you're right, that information needs to be protected. It could touch on protection for leaves of absence for medical reasons where the organization has specific medical information, but typically HIPAA refers to medical providers, typically. That doesn't negate the fact that the organization has an obligation to make sure that certain protected information is confidential. So there are two layers to this. The first that your organization is responsible for, as I understand it from the HR world, is you need to make sure that only the people that have a need to know have access to that information, which is why we would have a medical file in addition to a personnel file. So we want to make sure if someone is out on a short-term disability, which also, which is a wage replacement process, and if they're eligible in addition to a protected leave of absence, which is around job protection, that it may not be appropriate for a supervisor to have that level of detail. However, Mark, in his position, would need to have access to that information. So that's kind of the first piece we would look at that, and then underneath, depending on the medical information, HIPAA may apply, but that's typically more related to medical records versus medical information related to short-term disability and leaves of absence. Does that make sense, the way I'm saying that?
It's just a very sensitive area, and if the wrong person gets the wrong information about someone, it could create a lot of problems. So that's why I'm asking. That's,
But on the other hand, though, the doctor's communicating with our people because the reason why this person's out, they need 2 weeks to recover. There's a letter from the doctor to Mark saying that's the reason why they're on leave. That is a document we keep on record.
You must have.
Yeah.
So if there's a leave of absence under the Vermont Family Leave Act for a serious medical condition, you must have that information from the doctor, because the doctor is the person verifying that serious medical condition, the definition of serious medical condition under the Vermont Earned Sick Leave Act, I apologize, under the Vermont Family Medical Leave Act.
Okay.
Also offer the federal Family Medical Leave Act, if I'm remembering correctly. So again, you must have that information from the doctor, because the doctor is the one, not the organization. The doctor is the one who is verifying for you that that serious medical condition meets the definition of eligibility under those leaves of absence.
Right, okay,
So
good.
would need that information, would be the person that would be verifying the leave of absence qualifies. And you're right, that information needs to be confidential, and only the people that need to know should know, which is why we would have a personnel file that may have performance in it, and the performance section of that file is available to supervisors because they have a need to know that. But then over here on the medical side of things, we would have a leave of absence, short-term disability information in that file. And those are required to be kept in not only just separate file folders, they're required to be kept in separate file drawers in a filing cabinet, if that's your system, and they must be locked and secured. So really great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Does that?
That's good. Yep.
I just know how they did it at GE. The doctor said he's okay to work. That's all you get to know.
Oh, we get a little bit more.
Correct.
As far as anybody on the floor knows.
No, no one
But the rest
else,
is between
no.
the doctor and the nurse. I don't know if you have a dispensary here.
No, we don't get into that.
So, not to get into too much of the weeds, but if someone has a non-work related injury and your organization requires that you are able to return to work full duty, then yes, Mark's going to need to know that, yes, I can work full duty. If on the other side of things, it's a workers' comp situation, then even the supervisor is going to need to know if there are any restrictions so that they can make sure that the work that the employee is performing is within those restrictions. So you're right, it's kind of like this decision tree process of who gets to know what is the reason behind someone returning to work, whether it's work-related or not work-related, and you have to navigate that carefully so only the people that need to know have that information and the information is secured properly.
Okay. We killed this one.
This could be a long conversation, but I got the gist.
Go ahead, Teresa, you still got the floor.
You have more to add.
All right, so with workers' compensation, we did pull together a workers' comp binder and packets of information. So if an employee is injured, we have a packet of information that contains information about that the employee can refer to in writing that says, hey, employee, this is what you need to do. Here's where you're going to go for treatment, unless they have to go to the emergency room, but still we would have that packet. They would provide this information, this packet of information to the medical provider so that the policy number and the points of contact are on there, as well as employee, after you are seen, here are the next steps in the process. It includes the job description. It includes a work capabilities form, which is customized based on what the state of Vermont recommends for information, and along with a standard operating procedure. So if someone's injured, everyone knows this is the process that we followed step by step. So if Mark or other supervisors within the organization have to back one another up, there's a consistent process. We have identified designated medical providers, which, again, you are using designated medical providers to begin with. It is considered a best practice, so I think it's really wonderful that your organization has adopted that practice, because designated medical providers understand the workers' comp process. It's a really nice process to have developed a relationship with a medical provider so that your employees are really well cared for and there's a little bit more hand-holding going on. So we've just put it in writing in a more formal manner. As I said, we added a work capabilities and workers' comp claims information form to make it easier to navigate the process and to make sure that all of the various entities have the information that they need in a more timely manner. It's a streamlined process. And I put together a workers' comp training, which was scheduled for March 18th, which was completed. So now we are on low priorities. We didn't think we were going to be able to tackle all of this, but we're really proud of the fact that we pushed through this and we tackled a whole bunch more things. So we have end of employment and separation. We have a process for that. we have end of employment separation, just assuring that any employees that are involuntarily terminated are paid within 72 hours. Making sure that there's a checklist for this, which we have customized and completed. Job descriptions, you have really nice job descriptions. There is experience preferred in there. Mark and I are kind of looking at, do we need to, do we need to reorganize the job description? It's really a formality. It's not a huge step in the process that needs to happen. My observation is you've got your job descriptions, they work for you, they contain the information you need. It's really more of, do you want to consider a different format? And it's really moving things around a little bit. The leave process, I explained before. My recommendation is that we put this on hold and get some other things in place, unless an employee does need a leave of absence, then let's jump in. It's easier to create a process for a leave of absence in the moment, if you will, because it makes more sense. So we would be taking advantage of the opportunity to walk through a leave of absence, holding the hand of the employee, and customizing the process for your organization at the same time. So that can be done very easily. I've done it many times with clients before. What I notice is if I try to help create that process and it's unfamiliar, because thankfully you haven't had to need to implement a leave of absence process, just makes more sense if you have an actual example to use as you're navigating through. New hire orientation, that's referred to above. We've put a lot of new documents in place. We've streamlined the process, and we have a nice checklist that guides everyone through that's been streamlined and consolidated. Performance, we put that on hold just in the interest of time. Evaluations are completed. That's really wonderful. The observation that I had was really drilling down more in terms of give more examples of, I'm a nudge on really defining what the adjectives are. So for example, if someone is really knowledgeable, what does that actually mean? If someone's a team player, what does that actually mean? So again, it's taking what you already have and do well and standing on the shoulders of that and just taking it to the new level. Recruitment, there's a new application that's available in hard copy and on the website. That's been completed. There's a written interview and reference question process to document the process. I'm in the process of just pulling your reference checks over to brand it with the organization's logo. So it's not that you didn't have these things, we just tweaked them a bit. We did remove the EOE form from the application. You are using that form to apply for grants. We just want to make sure that it's separate and apart from the application and kept separately. Background check and release form and policy, that's in process. Mark has been working with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns just to tidy that up, making sure that everything that you have in place is what you need, and that you can check that off the box. Our expectation is they're going to look at what you're doing and say, yes, you're just fine. Time and attendance, that was already all set. Labor law posters, we are just confirming, and again, this is a carryover, that you had purchased the update status labor law posters, meaning that if a law changes mid-year, you would automatically be getting the updates and not just relying on calendar year labor law posters. That's all I have. Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Questions from the board?
all this, when it's completed, it will be going into an employee's handbook?
We have,
Is there such a thing?
no, we have a personnel policy, and we have
That's
all these
Yeah, but-
forms.
the employee's handbook. They have it right there in front of them. If they got a question, they can read it.
It's in the
And
personnel policy, yeah. It's a different from private versus municipal, a little bit.
I was just,
It all has this, all the stuff in there, and we get these onboarding packages, and we have like a bundle of what's in there. So if we get a new employee, it's all ready to go.
But like Rick's saying, where we were,
Yeah.
they handed you out a book
yeah,
and you had it in your hands. Everybody gets, when they're all updated, like this is all updated to where it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
each person gets a book, takes one home with him. So he doesn't have no excuse that he can't find this or can't find that. He's got it in hand to look it up on his own
It's
to see where
going,
he stands.
it's going more to personnel policies instead of handbooks now.
Yeah, well,
As,
but I just-
as a,
But even
across
then,
the board.
even
It's
then, they
and
can
they
hand
do
out.
have their
Yeah,
personnel
they'll
policies.
get the document, yeah.
yeah, they can get the whole personnel policy instead
They,
of,
they do have personnel policies.
but now they get the updated one. You know, after it's updated, everything gets updated.
And after we add all these things.
Right.
New
Right.
training,
Items in there.
and new- Yeah, and they do the little quiz that they know it, and they sign off that they
And they
understand
sign
it.
off the document, so we have it on record that they,
Yeah, it's
Have received it.
Okay, yeah.
not necessarily they've read it, but they
well,
received it.
yeah, that's just it.
It's up to them to read it.
written, Exactly.
They've received it, they have the opportunity to ask questions,
Questions,
they
that's
have no
correct.
further questions on it. And it's a
Okay.
little bit more than just received it, there's like 5 items.
And I guess my other question, which is really a personal pet peeve of mine, is training. I didn't see anything about training.
We do a lot of training. We do all the onboarding
You train the
stuff.
trainers?
I've
I
been
assume.
trained the trainers,
That's military term, the way they do it now.
I've been
Train the
trained the
trainers so
trainers'
they can train the
trainer.
people.
I've been a trainer's trainer. And we get training,
Well,
And
there's a
they
whole
have a
section
certain
on
period
here
of
with
time.
OSHA and
Say 6
Yeah, we gotta
weeks
do
of
the
training
OSHA stuff,
before
state
they're
stuff.
let loose on
the
their
whole
own.
section.
something like that. And there's a level of confidence that after the first month, they get reviewed, second month, because there's 3-month probationary period, and there's a review. Each of those periods and comments would be added to whatever folder if is necessary, everything's okay. But all this training is done above and beyond the onboarding training that wasn't done before me. Now it's happening, and Brianna also has a program that is something that we call them tailgate trainings, and we cover everything from the bulbs, from all the programs that we're doing. And there's a quiz, there's and they sign off that they do this training, and we implemented that last year, and we're gonna do it again this year. This is popular to the point where we're making it available to other transfer stations, so they can train their staff. And it keeps them up to date with the state requirements are. So if a customer comes in, hey, what do I do with this? They've been trained.
Okay, is that it, Teresa? We're all set? She,
Just to kind of piggyback on a couple of things, for those that are joining us, the assessment is very specific to human resources. I do touch on safety just because I have some safety experience and I know the questions to ask about that. So these items here are not necessarily focused on because we're handing them out to employees. What we're really looking here are what are the human resources practices that you have in place that either need to be tidied up or maybe you don't have in place that we need to add. So that was the purpose of the assessment. As far as on-the-job training, Mark has described that already. As far as safety training and harassment training, that's what's in process right now that Mark is working with the league and with some experienced trainers around harassment to pull that together and nail it down. Employees do get a copy of your personnel policy. So no worries about employees receiving that and making sure they have an opportunity to read through that and ask questions. Mark did a nice job of explaining that as well. I do recommend that once we get all of this done, Mark and I will chat again about recommending, which is one of my recommendations, it's time to review your handbook because it should be reviewed every couple of years. There also have been a couple of changes. We want to make sure that that's updated in your handbook as well. So this is really more process oriented to make sure that when people are coming on board, you have a nice way of handoffs and checking off the list that yes, all of these things are happening. We added a few new forms. Those forms are not necessarily for the employee. It's really more for you as an organization to capture the information that you need in a more streamlined fashion, just to make the job easier and more easily documentable.
So, just for the new members who are here, Teresa's come on board. We've never had an HR person in this organization since I've been here. And she is hired as needed and paid as needed. So she was going through this whole process with us to get us caught up and get a program on it. And if we do have issues down the road, we can hire her on as needed basis. So this is something new with the small business world. Not everybody has a lot of money to hire a full-time HR person. So that's what Teresa does. She helps small business people as a consultant to come in and help the units to deal with HR issues, which we're in a world that's happening right now. So, thank you, Teresa.
She also does municipalities.
Thank you.
She does municipalities, that's correct.
Yeah, she started doing that.
I guess just for the new
Thanks,
hires.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Live by, the only stupid question is one not asked.
I agree.
People that have been.
I agree strongly.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, moving on. I will accept the motion to accept the minutes from 4/3/24.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay. Any debate, any changes, any deletions, additions? There, if not, all in favor say aye. Raise your hand on the.
Aye.
Aye.
Paul, are you all set? Yes or no? Bruce, yes or no?
Aye.
Bruce?
Yeah, I said aye.
Oh, okay, it must be Paul then we're waiting for.
Could be on the phone.
Could be on the phone. Okay, majority passes anyway. So let's move on to, okay, there's a form in here. And how that form is, the member from Mendon has already filled out her form, ready for a select person. On the top part is the piece that you fill out, and the bottom piece is what the select board or the chair or whoever's in charge of signing these forms for the board. And then you would email this back to Mark, so we have this on record that you are actually a voting member of the district. Ethan, you're all set. I will take care of ours on Monday with our president, so. So how many we got missing?
We have some. You want a number?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want the name.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Can you give us the names, the town names?
I think you're all set.
Okay.
You're all set.
You're all set.
All right.
I know we're not all set because we haven't met yet.
I think each of the members, Pittsfield. They get a new member. I thought the person would be here tonight.
Oh, okay. There's a new member from Pittsfield. Okay.
Ian is stepping down as the alternate,
Okay.
in the city.
Okay, let's move on to outreach transfer station updates.
We have Desna here.
I think Desna is here.
Yes, she is.
The floor is yours, Desna. You need to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Would you introduce yourself?
I'm Desna.
Would you introduce yourself so the new members know?
Hi, I'm Desmond Jenkins. I'm the outreach coordinator. And I want to say that Green Up Day is upon us. And it's this Saturday, May the 4th. And I want you to please join us. Or join your local area if it's not Rutland City. So anyways, Rutland County Solid Waste District has taken the lead yet again this year, and we are going to be cleaning again the downtown city area. And for those who want to join us, we are going to meet in front of the city hall at 9 o'clock, and I'll be giving out the bags, the gloves, and the zones where you can clean. And in addition, we'll have some snacks, some water, hand sanitizer for all the Green Up Day participants. After the bags are collected, each zone or group with the most bags, the one with the most bags will win a friendly competition. Very informal, just the informal honor of having the most. And afterwards, we are going to transport the Green Up Day bags to Oliver Subaru, where they have a designated bin for all of the Rutland area Green Up Day bags. And I wanted to mention that we have been assisted by the Downtown Rutland Partnership, by Shaw's, and by Casella's, of course.
So doesn't
So,
Rotary Club South is doing the bike pass from Giorgetti to Monsignor Connor Fields, and behind the plaza, the other bike path, the Spruce Street bike path. So we're doing those two sections.
yes, we're doing the downtown section. We're also one of the hubs for passing out bags.
Right.
So if a group didn't manage to get their own through the state person in charge there, then they can come to us and we'll give them the bags as
Okay,
well.
super. Thank you.
And then let's not forget that Sunday is the Loyalty Parade, the next day, May the 5th. And so our big truck with our big logo on it will be decorated in red, white, and blue. And so be sure to join us in the downtown area of Rutland City at 2 o'clock for the parade. And that's it.
Thank you, Desna.
Right.
Great job.
Transfer station?
As an update, I know we've been talking about the road repairs that we want to make at the transfer station. I've still been waiting to hear back on an estimate from Steve, but he was on vacation for a while. And I just reached back out to him, so I should hear back from him in the next few days with that estimate. So we can go over that possibly next meeting. And we've started to pilot our commingled plastic program. We're starting to put materials into the container. I'm hoping in the next few days or few weeks we can transition to having the customers do it. That way we don't have to deal with that with our employees, putting all the material in there right now. Our biggest thing is we don't want them to get the material to be contaminated. So we're trying to coach basically or educate the public to not contaminate the bins. But other than that, and then also just an update, we started our Rover events. We've had 4 weekends of Rover so far, and we've been to 8 different towns. And my hope is to get the word out more to like smaller towns, because to try to increase the participation in smaller towns. But overall, we've had a good participation rate so far this year.
Questions?
What is Rover?
So on Saturdays, we normally will go to 2 different towns or 1 town depending on the weekend, and we'll collect hazardous waste from different towns in the district.
And then you said Steve in a road. What is that? You're putting in new?
Yeah, so there's a few potholes, and right at the entrance of Gleason Road, there's like a separation from the entrance. There's a huge dip. So we talked about trying to fill that in with some asphalt and possibly cutting out some of the road and filling it in.
So who's Steve? Wilk?
Steve Wilk, yeah.
Is that who we use on a regular basis, or is it something you put out to bid?
I don't know, I wasn't here when we last did the paving.
It depends on the size of it. If it's something like what we're trying to do is specifically address those things that the cold patch just doesn't work. You put the cold patch down there, we did that, we got enough for a couple of trips. And 2 trucks go over it, and it's tough.
gone.
So what we're looking for is an immediate patch. Steve is a good partner with us, and we're looking for a price so we can get those dips fixed a little bit more permanently than the cold patch.
So when you say you look for a price, though, are you talking to anybody else about a price?
I think
Or you just always
the
use
scope of
Steve?
work here is small.
Small.
And so it's more repair and maintenance than something that would reach the threshold of
If we were
bidding.
doing a large project, like doing a big patch of, something that, if and when we have a project here, we haven't talked about that when we met earlier, is we're updating our scale house, and it's gonna open up the transfer station so much more. And I think we do have some money in the capital to do a bigger project like that. At that point in time, we do definitely wanna,
Bid it out.
be bidding it out to ensure that those big dollar things are responsible. Yep.
In your rove events,
Yeah.
I gotta assume that you keep a track of what you take in.
Yes, yep,
So when I asked the question, which I've asked for the last several years and never really got an answer,
yep.
you could tell me what was collected at Castleton
Yeah.
at April 10th. So
Yeah.
do I get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can, definitely, yeah. I have all that data. I collect all of it and keep
Okay,
track of
because
it.
I've never got an answer in all the years I've asked for that.
Yeah.
It's always
Did you
been-
ask your
it's always
select
been-
board?
No, I'm on the select board.
Oh, who did you ask?
I believe I,
Just as a process, if you were to email me that or text me it, something in writing what you're asking for, so I can make sure we get it exactly the way you write it, and we'll get that for you.
We have to keep records for the state anyway.
that's what I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal, because you have to keep the
Well,
pretty specific records.
These can come in many papers, and some of the stuff can be confidential too. So if it's a document that exists, or if it's an analysis that needs to be created, this is extra work that I'll have to create for Brianna to do.
Well, she
Why
just-
is that extra work? She already is keeping track of that, and how is that confidential?
Well, some of the stuff.
Neither of those things are confidential.
Just the numbers in itself, no, but the information that, of those individuals that have dropped stuff off.
I'm not asking for the individual's name.
He's asking for a number.
So you're just looking for number of product.
Yes.
Isn't that something you could give us monthly? A piece of paper?
I could, yeah.
I want it specifically for Castleton. I don't want Castleton,
if
Pulte
she
all
had-
included.
No, but she could have a piece of paper that says Castleton, the date, and then exactly what it is. Pulteney, the date, exactly what it is. I mean.
And actually, you
that's-
should have that anyways. You should keep
Yeah.
it better, you know.
And if
I
it's
just
given
keep
to
track
the
of it
board,
anyway,
then
so
you
I can
always
always
know
Okay.
which town. and-
That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for Joe Schmo dropping off a can of bee spray. I'm not asking for
You wanna know how how many people participated?
That would be good too.
Okay.
But I just wanna know, did you collect a
Generic.
wheelbarrow full? Did you collect a pickup
It's a
truck?
weight,
Generic.
do you,
Yeah.
How
yeah.
many participants?
How many people, how many units came in and dropped this stuff off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
So, am I safe to assume that hazardous waste is still not open every day?
That is safe to say.
And when would you expect that to be done?
The answer is the same as it was last month. As soon as we can get that extra person hired,
Oh,
we
there's
can,
nobody for the position?
we need to
Not
have,
full-time.
we need to have another position up there so it could be safe. Right now, we have it by appointment, and everything is controlled. Control and safety is required.
So, when?
When I get another person.
And when
And
will you
hopefully-
be hiring that? Because you just hired
Ongoing
somebody.
now. It's ongoing now.
Because we're now like 5 or 6 months that you have not filled this position. So do you not see the problem with that?
If you
Well,
can
let
get me,
me explain something here. He has advertised in Indeed, he's advertised with the state, he's advertised with other districts, he's advertised with the state of Vermont. There's nobody out there grabbing this job. Right now, the job market is really bad for these
I
specialty
do
jobs.
understand that, but this has been going on for 6
I
months.
know, but he is doing what you asked him to do.
6 months.
Yeah, it's taken that long to find people.
Look at how long we've had homeless people that would go. Why don't they have a home?
We
there?
wouldn't be having such a problem if we weren't having so much turnover. So that is a situation. That is something that we need to address because we are having turnover. And we are I don't always see that. I look to see where we're advertising. I absolutely do, because that's my job. But as far as I'm concerned, we've asked for something and it's been 6 months and nothing has happened. So I'm pretty disappointed by that.
Just hired somebody.
Have we had people apply, but
Well,
you just didn't?
we've been advertising positions. At your last meeting in January, we authorized within the organization chart that extra person. At that point, we were hiring for that person. But the idea of,
It happened before that. We
that?
asked you before that. You said the organizational chart was the reason.
it is important.
We asked you for that prior to that. We absolutely did. I'm gonna go back and get the minutes and show them to you. It's been months. And you use the organizational
could
chart
get-
as an excuse. You've used other things as an excuse. So I pretty much wanna know how much
If
longer.
nobody
we're gonna-
applies for it, what are you gonna do? If you don't have a,
It's not just about who's applying.
Same us with the town. We've been
Okay.
waiting for help workers for the town.
So let's talk
Nobody's
about that
applying.
then. Let's talk about that. If we want to talk about hiring, let's talk about what our turnover is and why we aren't keeping people so that we can do this.
What
Because-
rate are we offering for the position?
We happen to be going through a lot of people. Like
Or
8 in the
some
last
peo-
year.
We just lost one that left on their own.
We have to ask why. Why are we losing so many people? We need to look at why we're losing people and why people don't want to work for us. It is something that we do need to address.
But this is not unusual in the whole marketplace right now. In the restaurant business, they're going like 15 at a whack, okay? It's not us, it's the whole marketplace with labor right now. We cannot find people to work. And from cops to firefighters to the hospital.
I'm not buying
across
it,
the board.
but okay. We
So
can
do
move on
you
from
know
this.
something personally that
I'm
you've been
not. I'm
told
just not.
that you're
buying
not
it.
at freedom to say?
I just know that it was asked and no action was taken for
Now-
quite some time.
For hazardous waste, you can't just have a container for people to throw it in?
No, we have to handle it, document it, we have to separate
According to
it.
the state?
Yes, that's why we got in trouble before. We got fined, $30,000-$40,000 because we did not have these things in place 5 years ago. That's why now we got to make sure we have the right personnel, doing the right thing, recording the stuff properly, and disposing it in the right containers, so when our contractors come pick it up, it's already sorted and protected. That's why we're trying to move to a new facility so it's cleaner and safer. Because right now, it's iffy. A container is not considered contained because it can leak out of a container.
Oh, yes. So when
What
you
I'm
talk
saying?
about moving to a new facility, you mean the whole thing off of Gleason Road?
Well, no, at Gleason Road, build a
Okay,
new one.
all
But
right.
he'll talk about that in his report, what we're doing with the city. We have to get the lease in place first
Okay.
before we can move on.
Mark, can you answer this young man's question he asked? I don't know if you heard what he asked.
What's your
Yeah,
question?
what was the rate we're offering for this position, for the hazardous waste position?
The idea that we're gonna get a lead person involved in here, and the rate that is advertised is up to $22 an hour. And that's being looked at right now. We had to replace our recycling person. And that has been done, and we're looking for that lead position. So you'd have 2 people in the HHW to coordinate these things. Right now, for those that don't know, we are doing by appointments. And we offer many more appointments than people that use them. So I think we'll sufficiently have the available spots. When they come, they're able to do their HHW materials. The operator knows what's gonna happen and what to be prepared for, because they indicate what they're bringing. 5 gallons of used oil, 1 pound of batteries, or whatever it is. It has the quantity in the item. So the operator at the HHW knows what to expect. He meets the customer. There's no lines. There's no one coming by and dropping things off like they used to do it. And then when they get inspected, there's the $48,000 fine that we experience. That is no longer happening because the operator can handle these materials as he's supposed to do it. And Right now, the suggestion is to not to have these appointments, just to have people come by. And we need the staff to manage this. And one other thing is we won't know what they're bringing. So there's gonna be a lot more uncertainty and a lot more risk involved. And we don't want people just coming up there dropping things off. That's illegal. So we're preparing. We've got advertisements out in every publication, social media, website, 7 days advertised. It's spending a lot of money to advertise this stuff. And we're looking for clients that are qualified. We're interviewing anyone that we suspect may be qualified. We advertise on Indeed. People that put down that they worked for 2 months out of the last 10 years, I don't think they're qualified for that. So, not saying if they say that they work some jobs and they have some time off, we'll take a look and then we'll ask them to fill out an application. And, there has to be some serious doubt in there where we can't hire them. But we're interviewing, Brianna and I are interviewing many people.
Just so I understand, are you hiring, is the intention to hire a person for HHW? Or was the intention to hire a leader and then have two people that would, I guess your answer to
Is
Ethan.
being what you said. We get a leader, we can have the two people in for HHW. And that second person will be available, also doing other things when there are no appointments.
So right now, what we're looking to hire is the leader level position.
Right.
And then the need will be infilled by existing
Yes.
employees that would then be overseen by the new hire.
Exactly. Initially, when this was proposed, it was proposed as two people hired. And the board said no to the two people, and they accepted the lead position and backfill, and that's where we are right now. And we have interviews happening. One was scheduled for today, no call, no show. So we're doing.
That's not uncommon.
No, it's
Well,
not.
it's very frustrating to me, I'll tell you.
Are we taking advantage of the job fair that they're having down at Depot Park on
Well,
Saturday? Is it
no.
Saturday? Isn't that where they're having, there's signs all over that there's a job fair.
You can go job hunting till the cows come home, but how many hours of the day and how many other things do we have to do here? And we're busy we're I'm not going into, if you want to talk about what's on our plate, Brianna and I's plate, Greg's plate, I can go into that with great detail. But there's times in the day where I don't have time to go to the bathroom. And, I mean, that's no exaggeration. And,
So we're
today-
saying the job fair is not worth it?
No. We reach out to the state people, we reach out to the veterans people, we reach out to listservs all over the Northeast. We do our website, we do our social media.
Do you have to have a certain aged person for that, or can you get somebody that's doing something with Stafford Tech or like graduating high school and looking to have a career like that?
We're looking for someone that's an adult and someone that has some experience in overseeing people.
Management.
We're not looking for a foreman, we're looking for a leader. Someone to guide and to pick up things that are directly up there on a day-to-day. And to backfill for vacations, for days off, for illnesses and so forth like that, to reduce any kind of, like they have to work all alone for all day without a break or something like that. That hardly ever happens because we're always out there assisting it somehow. Plus we have all the other paperwork and all the program stuff, the quarterly reports, extra requests. There's just one more thing tacked onto it.
And the state of Vermont, in their wisdom, is passing another bill on batteries. So there's a whole new program coming in that we're going to have to comply with in July.
EPR for batteries, which is a good thing. I haven't heard the governor sign it, though.
No, he hasn't signed it yet, but it's coming.
But this is part two of the HHW thing.
Yep.
Those devices, I'm kind of going into my report a little bit, devices that contain batteries. Instead of just taking it and Well,
throwing it away.
It's like the cradle to life thing. So it's more on holding the producers, the brands, accountable for cradle to life expenses. And Vermont is very active in that. That's like our paint program, our
Right.
e-waste program, bulbs, batteries, and many of the
So
other
I
things.
apologize for being new here and not knowing this, but you said you wanted to hire 2 people, and the board said, no, we're only gonna hire 1. So
Correct.
that one person that's supposedly gonna be in charge of the HHW, are they supposed to work 5 days a week, or 7 days a week, or how many days a week?
Well,
They're only doing that, right?
well, we have one already doing that right now. We have an operator in HHW, and this is the HHW. We have an assistant that helps out on days off and so forth like that.
Okay, so how many days a week do we do?
We do 6 days a week.
Even now?
Yeah.
So what was
We
the
do not
question you
do
were asking?
HHW 6 days a week.
But we
do
do.
not. No, we do not.
We've got to make an appointment, but yeah, we're open 6 days a week.
So why do they have to make an appointment?
So they know what's coming in, and the personnel's there when they show up,
And we know what they're bringing.
and what they're bringing.
And there's not lines up
So
there.
if the personnel isn't working there, are they working over somewhere
Yeah,
else, like with recycling
We
or
try
something?
to keep the costs
Okay.
down, when COVID
So
hit.
they're sharing, job sharing kind of thing.
We like to have them trained such that they can work
Right.
in all the locations
Right.
in case something happens.
Yep.
And that's the goal. And at the point where right now we have the HHW person there
Mhm.
and filling in all the appointments, and that's being managed efficiently and safely. We
Yeah,
haven't
so
heard-
when you make an appointment, do you call, do you email, do you do both, or?
You can call.
Whatever you want?
You can call, or you can go up to the website and make it. There you
Okay.
go.
All right,
It's easy peasy.
yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I just have a question, Mark. We don't have any current personnel that could fill this lead position up there?
No,
No.
no,
Why is that?
no one wants it.
Do we pay them more than this lead person is gonna get paid? Is that why?
Some of them have been here for a while, so, yeah, some are getting a little bit more than that.
So it would be a downgrade to them to take the lead position up there? is
Well,
what you're saying.
I wouldn't downgrade them.
Well, money-wise,
That's what I mean.
I would-
Yeah, you would.
Suggestion would be
it would be a demotion in pay
No, I wouldn't.
if they moved?
I don't think it would be a reduction in responsibility.
I'm asking about the pay.
No, but if they move from wherever they are, if you think there's already somebody working for us that's very qualified for this, and you offered them that job, would they get paid the same as what they're getting right now, or maybe a tad more
Well,
for incentive?
I did investigate that, and after finding out the information, I wouldn't be going through this process. So no, the person doesn't want it. And the answer is, it's not about the money, it just doesn't, it's not an increase in responsibility, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Well, you're handling stuff, and you got
Yeah.
to do it
This,
right.
this person would not necessarily be in
It's a
HHW.
toxic situation, really.
Exactly.
Well, this
So
lead
you gotta wear
person is
protection
not
stuff?
being hired just for HHW.
Is to allow the staff to be in HHW without going in other places.
That's
So
where
if we
they,
can focus, if we can have someone else able to backfill a vacancy or do breaks or if cover for sick time or vacations, we can, the idea is to have this open without appointments. This would make it happen. Without worrying, without knowing that things are being left aside because you have 4 more people in line. And that's what's gonna happen. So one person's gonna have to direct the traffic and make sure it's safe.
Well, maybe we should set up like motor vehicle. It's optional to set up an appointment, and I just realized when you go to motor vehicle, you set up an appointment, you get it to go to the head of the line when you walk into the building, and I was only there 5 minutes the last time I was there, because I had an appointment.
I'd like to still keep the appointments there.
Well, it sounds like a big concern that I keep hearing come up in sort of the sides of this is the risk of folks abandoning their hazardous waste there. And that circumstance happens when there's no one attending
Correct.
when they can't get rid
that
of it,
station
too.
because they're
And we want to make sure.
there wasn't a need at the time. They went and helped somewhere else. An unknown, unidentified drop off just happens.
Right.
They come back and out of nowhere now there is this abandoned material that needs to be identified, processed, and stored. And I'm going to imagine that with that being, it may not be the most common thing that happens, but that seems like it's a pretty impactful thing when it does happen. And so minimizing or eliminating that entirely is a major component of what this is, even though it may not be the most frequent occurrence. It's impactful enough that
It's very serious, and to show, as I mentioned, what happened with the last inspection just before I came here.
But Mark, this has been down since COVID. We did not we did not start appointments till COVID. This did not happen because we got fined or anything. It was open before COVID. COVID happened, and it hasn't reopened after COVID. Let's get, like,
It sounds to
honest
me
about
like having an appointment works better
It does.
than just
It's
getting
not-
in line.
Because I use the
customer
system.
friendly.
It works without any complaint that I'm hearing from.
I've used the
It's
system,
not
it works really
customer
well.
Why is it not customer friendly when they have to make an appointment? There's a lot of
Because
places you can't go where you have to make an appointment.
Go and do it.
Yeah, but that
So-
doesn't mean that that was the best way to do it. It used to be that, you know, we never used to
That-
recycle, then we recycled. Now they're thinking about getting
Okay.
rid of a lot of recycling because we don't even recycle half the stuff that we're putting in the recycle bin. So there's so much stuff that's so dangerous now.
It's not, we did it before.
It doesn't matter though.
Without a problem. But it does matter because the customer base was upset about this. So now COVID is over, but we still haven't gone back to it. Our customer base is upset. We are a customer-driven business. Period.
there's a few things that come to mind when I hear these things going back and forth. Is one that we used to talk about way back, where if we didn't have customer services available, all the trash that, you know, wasn't convenient to dispose of would end up off the edge of the Whipple Hollow Road. Jokingly enough, because it's
Or
just where
Wheelerville.
wherever. So that boils down to, if it's not convenient to dispose of it properly, there becomes a risk that's very high and very real that those hazardous materials just go into the waste stream, which I'm sure if we look up, I'm sure there's a million statistics and studies that have been done that average out what the contamination of hazardous materials end up in the waste stream can be. I'm sure that's an easy enough thing to find. So as a district, it's our mandate, our charge, our task to minimize that and maximize the opportunity. We have to balance that, because if we make it too inconvenient, people are just going to throw everything in the trash. If we don't do it right,
State's on it.
then we get contaminated oil tankers that cost $60,000 to clean out with a $40,000 fine on top. That was a nightmare to deal with. So it's not that one is right and one is wrong.
You need a happy medium.
It's that both are right, and we can't sacrifice all of one for all of the other. It's
Can we have one day a week or one day a month where they can just come?
We tried, we did intermit after COVID to open it up 2 days, and we would make sure we have the staff available.
And how'd
And
that work out?
It worked out sporadically, and we were able to have people there. And I think when we get this extra person, and if we have it available by appointment, those that want to jump ahead of the line and they don't want to be interrupted, we'd try to work with that. But also those people that, gee, I'm here and I didn't know, so, oh, I hear you have HHW, let me make sure you can get here. Wait right here, and we'll process your stuff. So the best of both worlds.
maybe in the
And-
meantime, I missed your name. I'm so sorry.
Susan.
Susan, thank you, Susan. Susan's middle ground suggestion sounds like maybe that's the step that we can take now.
Yeah.
That will create, Wednesdays are the day.
Why can't Saturdays?
Whatever, Saturday.
Saturday's like the biggest customer day.
Right.
Yeah,
True.
and-
So why are we not at least
Then
offering?
they're gonna wait in line.
Well, we have the Rover event going to all
If
the
I go up
town-
there on Saturday, you wait in line.
Appointments on Saturdays because of the rover.
We have the Rover event, the HHW Rover,
Mm.
going out on Saturdays. And you need 2 people for that.
That's
So-
to the towns, correct?
That's correct. We have 32
But there are a
events.
lot
You
of
guys
other
know
towns
your
that do like a
resources
Wednesday.
better than any of us do. I think that a good step towards satisfying the current issue of convenience would be, maybe Susan's suggestion is a step in the right direction, where Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, whatever day you guys feel is the day that you can leave Mr. 8 hazardous guy in that position all day with assured non-interruption. And if there is an interruption, just the other services are interrupted, whether it's recycling an old book versus a $40,000 oil contamination fine. Let the book sit. I'm making this up, of course. This is a conceptual.
Totally.
But can we introduce a day like that? Does that seem like something that would fit in with your schedules, and you guys can pick the day and just add that to your schedule on the website, that by appointment only, every day, always available, or in addition to Wednesdays, appointments available, also walk-ins welcome on Wednesdays? Whatever.
I think when we get the new staff person on board, I think absolutely.
Well, it
That's
sounds
the
like the
whole-
new
Yeah,
staff
but his
person.
question is before
The
the
new
new
staff
staff
person
person.
answers the question
Right.
and provides full coverage all the time. And that's obviously an issue. I can absolutely sympathize this. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 laborers hired. One showed up for 2 days, the other never showed up in the last 2 weeks. I get it. It's a real thing. And we're not, the folks, we're not hiring rocket scientists here. We're not competing with Harvard alumni. I get it. This is a thin employee pool that we're working from here. But we have good employees up there that are trained well and are capable of that task now. It sounds like give a little on this one to satisfy part of the need in the other direction, and it's a good balance. I would like, if you guys can explore that concept, I think that would be worth the effort in the short term.
Okay, let me sit down with Brianna, and we'll see what we can do with the schedule and how that would work.
Do we make a motion?
Well, it's a managerial.
We gotta take a pause here. We jumped to term B. We haven't solved term A yet. We gotta get that employee hired. You're going on, like, assuming that employee's hired already.
No, I'm not.
No.
Well, yes,
I'm not
you
at
are.
all. No, we're not.
Yes, you are.
One
Then
day a week.
Then I didn't represent my presentation clearly, then I apologize.
Right, that's not what he was
I'm
saying.
suggesting that based on Susan's recommendation, that we take the current hazardous waste employee who's working there full-time now, but is processing only appointments, that for 1 day a week, that walk-ins are also welcome, and the issue of keeping him in that impacts the appointments only is that he's called to he has other tasks. So the need to meet is that he be dedicated to that task for an entire day. Hiring a new employee would allow an employee to be dedicated to that task for an entire day without interruption. Currently, that employee experiences interruptions in needs in other locations, so we can't provide full coverage of that service. But to meet the inconvenience need, which is also a real need, that person's alternate responsibilities be relieved, guaranteed relieved, for 1 day per week, where the other staff knows that Wednesday's coming, knows that they're scheduled to cover the book drop-off, the pad, whatever he's pulled away from, so that employee is dedicated to the hazardous waste. So as people pull in, the station is always covered, so that the risk of someone abandoning an unidentified material or adding an incorrect material to the storage bin incorrectly is mitigated. So it would be with the same staff, just for 1 day a week. You could still get an appointment for that day for any time, but walk-ups would be covered for that day with the current staff. By adding a staff member, which we haven't been able to achieve, that's the intent, to solve the issue, where then
For every
5 days a week, or however, 6, whatever it is, that hazardous station would be covered full-time.
Okay, but we still have to talk about getting that lead person. We're doing something
Yes.
wrong, obviously, Mark. It's
Mike,
been 6 months. You
no.
need to raise
No.
we need
Might
to
a
do
little more
something.
Well, it hasn't been
cheese
6
on the
months
hook.
for the lead person, because the lead person suggestion didn't happen until,
After you approve the organizational chart.
well, it
That was the
got
last
approved
one.
before the organizational chart. It did. So I don't know why the organizational chart is this hang up, but it did get approved before that. So it hasn't been as much, but the hazardous waste part has been quite a bit of time. I would have to go back, but at least 6 months we've been talking about it.
Okay.
So does it need to be a higher pay?
Yeah, there you go.
It needs to be something, because we were spinning their wheels in the mud for 6 months. That's what I've heard.
Right,
at the
so what
last
do you
2 meetings.
think, though? What do you think?
I don't know. You're the manager, Mark. You tell me.
We're dealing, just getting people in is a problem. Just getting people in.
Maybe because of the money?
Well,
They can go to
no.
McDonald's and make $18 an hour, and they ain't gonna handle hazardous waste.
I can tell you from my
So it's-
experience with construction employees right now, I could offer them for a completely inexperienced person, 20, 25, 30. It doesn't matter what the pay is. In many of the circumstances I'm running into, the people simply don't want to work. And maybe it's because they're satisfied at whatever the state money is for them to stay home. I don't know the reasoning.
Sure.
But it's,
gotta
the
stop.
money has not been a motivate, I didn't mean to go off on a political tangent there.
Yeah.
No, that's
But
fine.
there's,
That's
there's,
all right.
whatever the motivating factors
Go to
are,
Vermont and go on welfare.
they decide that working isn't interesting. It doesn't matter what
That's
the
gotta
pay is.
stop.
Do our employees get health insurance?
They get very good health
Yes,
They get
insurance.
very
You get good health insurance.
health
So
fit,
there's
yeah.
many good benefits to working for the district. And we've worked
Vacation
very
time,
hard
stuff
for
like that.
many years to make sure that our employees we know work in an industry that is not the greatest industry to be a part of.
And the budget's
Working in
covering.
trash is not where everybody says, I want to grow up and sort trash. And it's hazardous, it's dangerous, it's hard, it's all of those things. So we've always fought hard here to keep the highest possible medical coverage. We pay for the family on top of things.
Yep.
We take a huge burden here above and beyond the pay to cover the idea that this is not the most ideal working conditions. And it far exceeds that of anything that
And we're doing the
McDonald's
cost of
or-
living increases every year, so.
Yeah. So it is quite competitive when you dig into it. But on the surface, just in the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 guys, my company offers the same. Nothing. They,
Okay,
Do what we're trying to do with the environment. Hazardous waste is vitally important to handle it right.
or we're gonna be in the boat again.
Exactly. We'll be drinking this stuff.
Yep. And we've had state up there doing audits already, ripping bags open to figure out what's being,
really?
oh yeah. We've had 2 audits already. I was there one day where they were,
Bush is big.
all the
on
guys
that.
in there pulling the bags apart and inventorying what's in the bags to see what our
In
percentage.
just our regular garbage bags, or
Yeah,
in?
yeah. Rip them right open, right there on the side, right?
Oh, yeah,
so what they're
because
doing
people
there
could
is
be
they're
throwing
looking
them.
at what I was mentioning to Brianna.
They wanna know what's in the waste stream, who's actually sorting, who's not.
Yep.
They don't know who it is, but they're just checking, and then they give us a percentage of what our,
That's a private contractor looking to get data to make decisions.
that's the state, right?
Yeah. Greg,
And-
Okay.
Greg Castelli,
And to
so-
get that,
Next
my
item.
thought was you're gonna have to have enough people there if you have a free day.
Oh, yeah.
Day or an appointment day, because if
Handle
you
it
get
properly.
people with appointments are gonna get upset because
True.
the attendant has to take care of the ones that are just walking in, so.
And
I'd
there-
almost just do one day that would be no appointments, just.
on top of appointments. But it's a very real thing. The folks who are gonna make appointments are gonna do the right thing anyways.
Right.
That person is gonna take the extra
There are-
step
there are
to
people that
call
care.
or go
I
online.
still think you should
They're gonna do the
still
right
keep
thing.
the appointment system in.
Right, because
place.
those people are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's the folks who are inconvenienced who are gonna throw it off the embankment or just in with the rest of their trash and hope it never hits them.
Okay.
So.
Is that it on your report? Okay.
Thank you.
That's more than 5.
Okay, we're gonna go to finance, the treasurer.
So try to fly through this a little bit because I've got a hard cut off at 8. I gotta pick the kids up, so I apologize. But on page 17, we've got the income statement for the general fund. Total revenues right now are $557,000. On the next page, total expenses are $517,939, which gives us total excess revenues over expenditures of $39,098.23. So those are through March 31st. The next page is the balance sheet for the general fund. Total assets are $1.18 million. Next page, total liabilities are $609,000. And total capital is $574,000.
Those are page 19 and 20.
The next page is the income statement for the MRF. Total revenues are $20,422. That basically, the largest portion of that is just the rent for this building over here from Casella. Total expenses are $20,843. The total expenses over revenue are $420.42.
You understand what he's talking about when he says the MERS? Thank you. This is sorting plant behind us, the rent from us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we rent out this big building. Casella. They do their zero sort recycling. Total assets for the MRF are $1.27 million. Total liabilities are $269, and total capital $1.27 million. Those are the basic financials for the general fund and the MRF. Switching over to page 24, we've got the Holler accounts receivable list. Basically not a whole lot of change here. The usual suspects where we don't know what they owe because they're not reporting as they're supposed to be. So we plug in estimates based on what their historical tonnage has been. But 1-800 Got Junk is up to date, Able Waste is up to date, Abenaki is up to date, Ace Carding, we don't know what they owe. The last time they reported was December of 2023. We've sent them bills with estimates and interest, and they've been paying that, but they owe about $400 with those estimates in place right now. BK Service and Denton Sons are up to date. East Coast is one of our long-time issues. We don't really know what they are. The last report we got was from November of 2023. With estimates, they owe us approximately $7,600. Hubbard's, we don't really know exactly what they owe. They do still owe the interest from when they owed us a large chunk of money that they paid off last year. We're getting reports from them on time and payments on time every month, but it's been a little bit inconsistent in terms of the dollar value. It's a lot lower than it used to be month to month. So it's hard to say for sure what they're reporting because we're not getting weight slips, we're just getting a handwritten report. Johnson Refuse, we haven't received anything for a couple of years, so we have no idea what they owe. Jones Rubbish with estimates, they owe us about $100. The same thing, I've been sending them bills with estimates for the surcharges plus interest, and they're paying on that, but we don't know for sure what they owe because they haven't reported. They owe us approximately $100 with estimates. Martel Waste, we have no idea what they owe, but it's with estimates approximately $70,200. McCurrier, North Star, Red Duck, Reynolds, Rutland Rubbish, Sam's You Save, SVC Inc. and they're all up to date. The few that do have receivable balances, I'm not worried about. They always pay them on time, so we should be good to go there. That's about it on those. A couple other items that are up in the air right now still. Mark and I have been meeting with banks and getting proposals together from them in terms of getting our excess cash basically protected either under FDIC protection by spreading it out into CDs, money market accounts, but we've also been getting complete banking services proposed to us by a couple different banks that they can hopefully offer us full package of services, things like direct deposit for employees, stuff like that. And with the amount of cash that we have on hand, they basically think the earnings on that can offset any fees that we might run into for those services. So anyway, we've met with 2 banks. We've got a couple more to go and meet with. But that's in progress, and we should have, a presentation put together for next month's meeting to give you guys an idea of what we're looking at for services and if it's going to cost us anything or if it looks like it's going to break even. Some of these packages we have been looking at instead of FDIC coverage. A lot of these banks are offering collateralization deals where it's basically sort of buying an insurance policy where anything above the FDIC coverage, if the bank happened to go under, there's protection in place to cover those funds as well, so we've been looking at those options. So yeah, by next month, we should have a pretty good idea of those things, the presentation of what we could do with the money, because we got quite a bit of cash that does, right now, it's at risk because it's sitting in accounts that are FDIC protected, but the balances are significantly higher.
658,000
Yeah.
that I signed today.
Yep,
So
so we're working on getting
the
that.
banks only cover 250,000, so we're at risk with the other 4. And they've been working on this for a month and a half, 2 months,
Yeah.
trying to get to the banks and get the best deal.
Any questions?
I got a question.
Sure.
Do we still have a compliance officer that goes to these haulers and rattles their cages?
Sort of, yes, we do.
Sort of.
You mean from the state?
Yes.
Yeah, she works for the state basically, and she goes to our haulers and does audit their books, compares that against wherever they're bringing it to, like Hubbard's, compares what they're reporting against the tonnage from, wherever they're bringing it to. I don't think we've seen 100% of the reporting that for the ones that she's done, but she does do that.
Because I just see this unknown stuff, and I think she could handle some of that.
There's a few that we definitely need to get a better handle on for sure, so.
And this is always a rocky road. The ones who are naughty are sometimes good, and the ones that are good are sometimes naughty. It changes
Jekyll and
yearly
Hyde.
and monthly and however you want to do it. So it's a lot of effort, and I certainly appreciate it.
So we will talk more about this in executive session, talking about attorneys in executive session. So that's coming up under his report.
So my question about having 5 haulers that haven't paid since 2023 is under executive session, or like how do we
there's-
not know?
There's two pieces
How do they
to
not?
this. Is it's not necessarily in any instance that they haven't paid anything.
So they have.
It's
Well,
that
since
they
2023 they haven't.
No, they've made payments. It just hasn't met their total. Maybe some haven't, but over some of them, they just don't achieve what we believe they owe. So they may be making payments, but they're just not making it
They need
100%.
It needs to be verified.
The other thing I wonder is how do we not know? Do they come and get on our scale?
No.
Or go to the New York scale?
We don't know. We don't know. They're not verifying the data, the information.
And this has always been the case.
It's supposed to be issued each month. And I don't know, I haven't,
So you don't know, so we don't know where they're disposing of it.
they say this
This could
and
be
this is
like
what.
hazardous waste,
Yeah, exactly.
where the state should be involved.
Correct.
Do we have a quorum without Chet?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to talk more about this collection process in executive session because we have some issues to talk about with the attorney. And talking about our attorney, we have to go to executive session. So we'll put that on the end. So Mark, let's go to your manager's report.
Okay.
Page 23.
23. Well, we just talked about the hauler accounts receivable in item 1. Item 2 is there's a couple of haulers that I guess considered naughty, and we've been looking to do some enforcement since last year. And, okay, next thing is, for 2 years now, we've been looking to recodify our ordinances. If we don't have ordinances that haven't been updated within 20 years or so, 10 years, they need some work. So the E-Board has gratefully set me aside to say, hey, let's get this thing going. I made a bunch of recommendations, sent that off to the attorney, and we're waiting for that. Next item is Casella Transportation and Disposal Agreement. Those are about to expire. Not right now, but within a year or so. That's been on the attorney's desk to take a look at. I gave some ideas on that, and I'm waiting to hear back on that. Revising, this is the big thing with the district and the city, the Rutland City lease agreement. Right now, we have a lease agreement that's about to expire in another year or so, or 2. And we're looking for a long-term lease. With a long-term lease, say 40, 50 years.
50 is what we're shooting for.
I'm hoping for that. And right now, if we were to go out for a grant to build a facility. And if you take a look at the facility we're looking to plan for, within our capital plan for the last couple of years, is a facility, a permanent facility that has, is gonna house our recycling center and our hazardous waste center. It's gonna also bring water up
Sewer.
there and sewer. So it's gonna be a modern facility where,
There's no water and sewer there?
nothing, no, it's challenging,
Well, the line goes right by our driveway, though.
Yeah, it does.
yeah. So we're
So we
looking,
still don't have an appointment with him.
We can't talk about that until we go into executive session. We'll talk about that.
we,
We should not be talking about this in open session.
okay, we'll talk.
Anything with the attorney
You're
needs to
right.
go in executive
Okay.
session.
What,
No, this is about the lease agreement
right,
with the
what are
city.
you talking, I'm like,
We're
what
working with the
attorney?
city to do
Well,
this.
our attorney's working on that, too.
Yes, he is.
Well, hello.
Yes. So since your last meeting, I was able to talk to the council, district council on April 9th. We were able to prioritize a list that the haulers referred to him, which is item 2, will be prioritized. I haven't heard anything further on that.
From the attorney.
Right.
So that actually goes under number 2?
Well, that's the item that is going to be the priority. To get take the 2 haulers that have been,
Right, but we're talking about the city lease agreement, and then under it is that, so that actually doesn't go there, that actually goes up to number 2?
no, I'm talking about the follow-up for the ones that are above that. Take a look at the follow-up in number 5. And I'm telling you in a summary of where we are now with the attorney. And the attorney indicated with a conversation with me that we're gonna prioritize number 2,
And we're going to talk about
which is
this
the 2
more in executive
haulers
session.
that have,
I think it's just poorly presented in.
It's
I-
gonna
the
get
follow-
talked about in
The follow-up is
executive.
not,
But
the follow-up that's here does not appear to be related to the bold title of item number 5.
that's true.
The
Right.
follow-up is unrelated to the bold
So
number
that goes
5.
to 2.
So it's
Oh my
misleading
God.
the way that it's set up. The follow-up is not associated with item number 5.
Thank you.
Although its presentation on the paper leads one to believe that it is that.
Here's our attorney right here.
Sign you up. Item number 6 is related to the auditor. We reached out to the auditor, and we're working to have it finished in May.
22.
That's
The audit
year.
of 2022, yeah. We
Yeah.
want to make sure, because
We can't do 23 until 22 is done.
I know, but we should be working on 23. That's a huge red flag to me, Mr. Shea.
Well,
So
I'm very upset over that.
Bye, thank you.
It
added,
should be a red flag to the rest of you, too.
so number 5 where it says added this to the list with council. So you're also talking about this, but a few months ago, were going to meet with the mayor, so you haven't done that.
Oh, yes, we have. I was at those
Okay,
meetings.
That's what I'm asking.
We've had 2 meetings,
Okay,
and now we had 3 meetings. We've had 3
okay,
meetings.
all right. That's
And I was
kind of what
present for
wanted.
those.
Okay, I'm like, wait a minute.
And one was with the assistant mayor,
most recently,
most recently, to actually put the workforce together, and the attorney, he's going to turn the attorney on, and our attorney has to look at it, their attorney has to look at it, so those are moving.
That was my question. That's why I'm like, wait, what?
item number 7.
You understand why we need to do a 50-year lease? Because bond counsel will not bond us unless we have a long-term lease. It's like having, your titles need to be clear type thing. It's the same thing with leases, and the state won't, the bond counsel will not do anything under, was it 30 years?
Well, more specifically, is we don't own the property. The
Correct.
city owns the property.
Right.
So if we have an agreement with the city can do the signing, but we'll agree to do all the stuff within the.
And the city would handle the grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Item number 7, our annual report book is up on the website. That talks about all the things we did in 2023. Item number 8, the grant that came up. I talked to you guys a couple of months ago about the grant opportunity for the 3-acre stormwater permit project, and we got approved. Our application was submitted. The 3-acre permit for this grant opportunity has been approved. The award is for up to $49,999 for engineering and permanent for our Murph stormwater project to start, which is starting soon.
That's a nice win there.
Yep.
Good job.
Yep. Staffing, we had an employee that decided to move from the district on 4/4/28. In our hiring process, we were able to be happy to say that we got Richard Fitzgerald joining us as effective April 24th this year for the recycling coordinator position. In that, oh, another item here, the last page here is a letter that I send out to some of the towns and so forth like that, related to, basically nothing's changing from what we did in previous years. So this is a little reminder.
And what level of compensation are we offering for that recycling position that was just hired?
I could, that position was, is that public?
We're a municipality, I believe it's public.
Yeah, that
It's in
okay.
our, your salary is published in our
Yeah,
report.
that was $18.
Typo on number 9.
What?
It says he joined us in
Oh, geez,
4/24,
14. Yeah, sorry.
2004.
Good eyes. Thanks.
He's been with us a while.
No. That concludes my report.
Okay.
I've got a question for Mark. Can you touch on Castleton's violation over there at the transfer station? I was told you were involved in it.
I'll talk to you offline if you like.
No, I want it in the open meeting. Can you do it in open meeting? Would you do it in the open meeting? It's all public knowledge.
Limitly. Did the manager talk to you about it?
Yeah, and he said
Yeah.
that you knew all about it and you called over there. I want you to
Yeah.
touch on what we
What-
did wrong or whatever, or what the solid waste district is gonna do to correct it, or
Not the solid waste district. What happens is,
just explain to the rest of the board
Okay.
members what happened.
we have 12 transfer stations. They're responsible to have all the things that we have at our transfer station. Not all the programs.
So when you say we have, they're not run by us.
No, they're not run by, they're run by the town.
Part of the district.
They're
Our
independent.
district
They're
town.
district members.
Even though we have 18 towns, we have 12 transfer stations
Operated
Run by those
independent,
towns.
run by those towns.
operated by
We're
this,
here to
because Mendon doesn't have a
Right,
operating
right,
station.
Right. We're here to help them, and what that does is we include them in our plans and our SWIPs and so forth like that, and help them out with paperwork. We assist them in their training if needed now. We assist them in their maintaining compliance. We do at least 2 visits out there each year, usually in the spring and in the fall when the rover's not running, and meet the transfer station guy and say, hey, how you doing here? How's this? We take pictures, very similar to what a state inspector would do. So when the state inspector does come, they're familiar with that process, and they can be just not, oh my God, life's falling down. No, the state can come onto the property whenever they want. And these are the things that they're gonna check. This is the form that they're gonna look at, and they're gonna make sure you do it right. If you don't do it right, they're gonna send you, or
Close
the
you down.
manager, or whoever the lead official is in the town, a notice of alleged violations. These are the bad things. You're violating solid waste regulations or hazard, whatever it is. And they would give you 30 days to complete it. If someone were to, it could be very minor things like debris on the ground, but it's still a violation. It could be something very serious where, this whole bunch of, it's different for each transfer
It
station.
could be hazardous waste.
Oh, yeah.
Not handling it properly.
I just asked what the violation was at Castleton.
So if you had something like in your e-waste, and you didn't label it properly, or if it was outside a group of items, when you have a gate loader, a big box, and you put all your e-waste in there, once you put the first piece in there, you have to have a label saying, this is when the first piece went in. So you have to get rid of that within a certain amount of time, so we know when it started, and we know that it's gonna be gone by that time. If you don't put it in that box, and you put it on the side, Bobby, if you put it on the side of the box, and it doesn't have that piece of paper on there saying this is when it came in,
The date.
the date, then it's a violation. And you'll take a picture of this, and what would happen is, a few days later, the town would get a notice of this, I would get copies to help support, reach out to the town. Hey, do you see this? And what can I do to assist? You have this thing, it's, you know, and we have conversations, and the town would probably say, okay, we fixed it, here's a picture of it, it no longer exists, and that's that. That doesn't say that you won't get a fine. It doesn't say, when you get into fines, they levy things such as, has this happened before? What is the risk to public health? And they balance that out to give you a certain number. And it's that's what I received when I started this job, after I was told it was all set. It is $48,000, thank you. This was, it happened in June, I got it in January. So it could still take time before you get the fines. But it's important, if you're responsive, that's a criteria. If you don't respond, that gives you much higher chances of you getting a fine within the 30 days. And it's my job to reach out and apply, have assistance, have them do the paperwork, have them meet with whoever. The state is out there visiting every transfer station. They're doing it, and there's times where we go out, we meet people at the transfer station, and we look at different things like we would do twice a year. And this is the thing we can do better right now. I don't see any violations, but what is some of the problems that you're having? Staffing, training, and we identify those things to help.
I guess what I'm asking is, who dropped the ball here? Is it your responsibility or part of your responsibility
No.
to train our?
No.
Who is to train our transfer station operators? How would they know that they had to have a piece of paper on there dating that Bob Spalding brought in the TV on April 1st? And that's what you just said, it has to be.
We could have that. We can offer
No,
that.
but
Yeah.
Is it the select board
It's the
that's
town.
responsible for their transfer stations?
It's the town's.
Ultimately?
It's the town's responsibility.
And maybe their town manager, a town manager of a town
It's a-
would be responsible?
The town's responsible for that training.
Like when you used to be a town manager, would you make sure that your transfer station was running properly?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what a manager's about. a
Yeah,
town
and
manager.
and if you don't know, give me a call.
The position of the solid waste district is to assist the town managers in executing what the town managers are responsible for. Just like they would reach out to any other expert in any other given field or resources. They're not reaching out to the solid waste district for help with their road crew or how to manage the grass on their public golf course or whatever, even though all of those things are the responsibility of the individual towns to handle that. We can provide resources, we can provide contacts, we can provide context and outreach and potentially resources depending on what the issues and needs are for those things. And we are an overseeing body, but we're not responsible for the actions of each town and how they handle their individual.
If they were to choose, exactly, if they choose that we're all set, as long as, I want to have that in an email, to say that, okay. I'm not going to interfere in the operations of the town. I'm here just to assist.
No, but I just.
You want to know who in your town is responsible for a fine or whatever.
How am I?
Shouldn't it be your town manager?
No, not, the town
But isn't
manager doesn't
he-
know all the solid waste rules and regulations. You guys do.
But it's his job
Right.
to reach
Well,
out
yes.
if he doesn't know.
Right.
Well,
It's
then
his responsibility to find that
So he
information.
needs to be on the phone with you and say, Mark, you need to get over there and tell us what we're doing wrong.
If he was
Is that what I'm?
That's what we do. Yes.
You do that twice a year with every
With the
town.
transfer
This
station
is
attendant.
different slightly what he's asking.
But if he were to ask that.
Violation in place.
Well,
Am I
yes,
correct?
but don't
Yeah,
you go twice a year, you said, and you do sort of train them on what they should and shouldn't do, and you probably talk about hazardous waste.
If that's part of their program
It
there.
didn't
Right,
involve hazardous
right.
waste, it involved
Okay.
electronics.
But in this, so what
that's
I'm picking
handled
up here is that
Yeah.
twice a year, the solid waste district will proactively, from our side, reach out to each town and visit each town's transfer station.
Yep.
That's proactive from us to them.
Correct.
We are available the rest of the year for other questions, concerns, any issues that are going on there as a resource for the town to reach out at any time to us and ask for help, assistance, information, whatever it may be. Is that?
That's absolutely true. Yep.
So no one that works at a transfer station should be unaware of what the rules and regulations are.
No, not after the state's been in there and they were in there, so I mean, they should know what's going on.
And that's what how do we avoid
Manuals?
this happening again? That's what I'm
Or
questioning.
the
I'm not
town
getting
hires
the answer
somebody
to
new,
that.
they
I
can
think
hand them
the
the
answer
manual.
is this,
That's a town
and
could
I'm
do
just
that.
kind of trying to
Get it from you
remember
guys,
when
or
I
you-
had to help
Could do
Mount
that.
Holly.
They could be personalized, I
That
guess, for each
particular
area, or
program
unless, well, you
does
said
have
they're all the same,
guidelines
so.
that get sent to the town,
Okay.
and they do
Depends on the programs.
have
But as far as
some
taking care of
trainings
stuff, it's all the
that
same.
go with that, because we did
That's what
have
it sounds
to
like. They just
sign up people for that.
hire somebody new,
So it may have been
unless they're
overlooked
experienced
Okay.
from
by
somewhere
someone in the
else.
town, but
You gotta train 'em.
normally that's what happens, it would go to the town, and
Well, we go to Castleton. so
towns that
it's up to
don't have
Castleton
a
to
town
take care of
manager,
that.
the select board takes care of that piece.
Okay.
Does
That's
that make
kinda what I was
sense?
looking for.
That's,
Somebody in my town
Manager is
dropped the ball.
ex-military, so
he
Because
should know
They
about
definitely
stuff
handed
like
that piece of
training.
paper
So
to us.
they got a letter from the state, obviously.
Well,
In
yeah,
this-
after the violation, but I'm talking to avoid the violation in the future. But what
That-
Gary's saying, somebody in the electronics department sent somebody at our town the paperwork, this is what you have to do. And it never got put up to the transfer
yeah,
station. operator.
usually they do send you, cause they'll tell you like when they're gonna pick up, what the guidelines are for that, because I've had to go down to the transfer station myself and say, okay, let me look at this, and
Okay.
but I do know that at the one town that I worked for, they had to send people to be trained in certain areas.
That only makes sense, to
Yeah.
send people out and have them trained.
Yeah.
Well, in
And have
the
the
end,
manuals in the shack
They, like,
of
all
what's
transfer
supposed to
people
be
would go to.
with the electronics, with hazardous waste, with tin cans, with glass
I
bottles,
think the league
whatever.
does that too, right?
I was gonna say, is the Vermont
No.
League and City and Town involved?
League
No.
doesn't do
No,
that?
No.
No,
This
no.
is all on each individual town to handle how they
Exactly.
see fit.
This,
And there can be levels of how they see fit, and also there can be ignorance and mistakes and oversights. The folks that are running a town are running many more things than just the transfer station.
Exactly. I
And
understand that.
It
so,
just kind
yeah.
of happened.
Yeah.
I
So-
think
Yeah.
So can I, Jay had his hand up, he had a question. Jay, you had a question?
Jay works at the Killington transfer
Killington.
station.
I just wanted to comment, it'd be helpful if we've got two different conversations going on in the background there at the same time. So two different sets of people were having a conversation at the same time. It was hard for me
To
to
hear, okay,
hear what was going on. So,
thank you.
thank you.
Bob, if I may add, your transfer station is busy. And if you have one person out there, and he's responsible for doing that whole thing,
Yeah, it doesn't work. I know that.
I'm not saying that, I'm just,
Well,
it's
I'm saying it.
challenging.
I'm telling you.
So you do the solid waste stuff twice a year? What, 3 times a year over there?
3 times a year.
3
Three
times,
or 4 times a year, you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
3 times.
and that's when
Council
you,
hazardous waste.
right, that's when you guys collect it, but you don't have the service at your transfer station, just,
No.
okay,
No, you guys come and do it.
yep,
Yeah.
right.
No, but they have electronics.
The electronics is
But
what.
you do
we-
take some
they let-
electronics.
Somebody left the TV outside the box, and the box wasn't marked electronics or marked TVs. I guess that was the big thing. It was undercover.
Yeah.
It would have been a whole other ballgame if you left.
It wasn't
up.
that covered, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's, but since they left it out of the unmarked box, we
Okay,
didn't mark the box, and we let, just what you were saying, like, people coming in and just throwing a hazard.
If they just drop it there,
Yeah, they
That's-
just dropped
how's he
it.
gonna
Well,
know?
you know, well, he doesn't, because he's down taking care of the garbage, and then electronics is up across the parking lot.
oh,
What you're pointing out, which is the exact concern
That's right.
that we were referring
That's why
to
we're careful.
earlier today.
Absolutely.
And because it was an electronic, I have no idea what that fine was.
Yeah.
The one that I was associated with all those years ago, whatever it was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, ended up being a far greater expense, but the contamination was minor. And in that particular instance, it couldn't even be traced back to whether it actually happened with us or not. But because they couldn't determine that it came from anywhere else, it landed on us.
On us.
Sure. I understand.
Okay,
and so-
we've kind of killed this. Let's move on. Thank you very much for the question. We need to move on to number 9. Open to the public. Any public has anything to say? Anybody out there in the public? No public in here.
Is Ethan considered public, or is he?
He's a supervisor.
He's a supervisor at the, yeah.
Nice, welcome.
He's one of, like, the staff person sitting here.
Can I ask a question in regards to this? Would this, I think you just answered it, but is this when the board would speak up? Because on our agendas over to the select board, we always have a place for select board members' comments and concerns. You guys don't have that on
No.
here at all. So
Would you-
where would you ask questions? Under the public comment?
We try to get the business item in next, business item next, business item next.
And new business, that would come under new business if you want.
You want it under new business?
Yep.
Okay. Instead of making a category on there.
Well, we could.
Board of
We can make this
Supervisors,
change if you want.
comments and concerns, well, it should be like 7A or whatever, or 7B, just, I think it should be on there.
I have a question as a public person, because I came in a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to you, Brianna, and the other lovely lady, yeah. And my concern, I just started doing this, is composting, and I'm really into like soil and regenerative farming and all that, and one of the best things that we can do is recycle and reuse all of our compost. So I've actually never been to the Rutland County Solid Waste District over here on Gleason Ave. So do you guys like take compost from people, and then what do you do with it?
We do.
Because I asked my friend whose husband works for Casella, and she's like, oh yeah, but then they give it to the farmers and spread it over the field. And then I talked to Susanna one time and said, can I buy compost from Rutland County Solid Waste? And she says, oh, you don't want that compost. So what was the word? What was that? A digester.
Yep.
I watch these videos on these incredible digesters that you put all the compost in one end, and at the other end, it turns out this incredible product that you put back in your soil, back in your gardens, back in your yard, and you can sell it. It makes money. So,
The Foster's does that now,
who's Foster's?
in Middlebury. Big operation up there.
There's several operations that do it. There's a digester in Bristol at a cow farm, a massive one.
So do we bring our compost up there for them to use in their
The
digester?
stuff that's
No,
coming from
they use
Casella's
their
going
own.
up there, right?
Our compost, you knew, if you were to bring a bag of compost or a bucket of compost, you would bring it to our facility, and we have a dumpster, like you see on the side of the street, and you dump it in there.
Okay,
And at that point, when, each Wednesday, Casella comes and picks it up, and
okay.
that's
And then
it.
what happens to it?
He sends it to those guys to,
To the
Various-
farm?
various
And they put it to a
digesters,
digester?
various-
matter of fact, that's why I buy Foster's compost, because I know it's coming from here and it comes
So
back.
where do you buy it, though?
Agway.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So we're actually turning
Commercial
our
side, on the
compost
commercial side.
into,
sort of.
We're not 100% there.
So there's an enormous risk in creating our own compost.
Correct.
So we don't want anything to do with creating our own compost. We want to transfer the product to the facility that's
Guys, we're doing it
well,
well.
I feel much better knowing, though, that it's going into a digester, because I thought they were just spreading it over the fields.
Some go
which
to
is-
digesters.
It's not,
Some
turned
can't.
into compost.
Digesters are very sensitive.
Right.
So the material that goes into a digester has to come from a very controlled source.
Like your restaurants.
Yes, we are not a controlled source, but
so ours doesn't go?
it I don't know the answer to that
Casella
exactly.
takes it somewhere.
might. Casella
Casella takes it
controls
somewhere.
that.
That's what I'm telling
Casella's
you.
gonna control that, and they're gonna know how
And
consistent
the
ours is or
restaurants,
not.
the restaurants now, and the hotels,
Right, I know,
Casella's
when I was
taking it
working at
up north.
Mountaintop, we
Yeah.
used to do that.
How do those biodegradable bags get along with the composters?
Don't like them myself, because mine doesn't work.
Well, there's a composter and there's a digester, and they're two separate things.
Yeah, all
The
right.
composter will eventually eat it
Because
up.
I
The
use the
digester,
bags
I don't
and
know.
just
Yeah,
throw
but
it
when
in.
they
Doesn't work?
I think
I
what
don't
he's
know, it
talking
goes to
about
the
is when
dump
you
and-
Oh,
bring
you
it
bring
to the dump, you have it in a
buy those,
biodegradable bag and you
I've seen
throw it into
advertised on
that
TV
compost
where-
pile.
It must
What-
cost a fortune.
So
to
that
watch
bag, in the process of the
Will get heated up
composting,
and.
no, the compost gets processed and the bag gets torn up. So if you just set the bag there, the bag's not gonna do that much, and the material isn't gonna
Right,
do
but
what
when
needs
it
to
goes
be
in the
inside.
digester.
Well, there's digesters and there's composters, and these are all very
Oh.
different things.
Different, oh, yeah,
But
like
all of the
Foster's is
material
composted.
goes in, gets processed. Even the material that goes into the landfills gets processed because they run over it with with bulldozers that have spiked feet. So the idea is to churn all that stuff
Keep
together.
it moving so the heat
And so
will-
those bags just get torn up,
I just
and the
wondered,
material of the bag,
I
when
do
it's
my
that
own,
small,
so-
it
Okay.
breaks down.
I
But if
could
you're
just take it and
composting in your backyard and you just keep throwing bags,
Yes,
No,
I
I
don't throw
would-
bags.
it's
mine's
not gonna do
pure.
it. Dump it out,
No.
Yep.
and that's
Yep.
what it's gonna do.
So I have a composter in my yard, but then I found out that I could buy a food cycler. Have you ever seen one of those?
Yeah,
And I
$300.
guess we can, 425.
400,
That's a cheap, that's
That's coming, it's coming, wait till the technology
But
gets a little bit better.
supposedly, we can rent them from here or
No,
from Casella's?
no, we're not there yet.
No.
I don't know.
The only thing that we
Oh, so it
provide-
must be Casella's, because I was
They rent
told
them?
by my friend Justine Lignan
Yeah.
that they have it and you can rent it and they charge you like $20 a month. And
There's some dumps.
that, you put all your stuff in there.
Everything,
Yeah.
all food,
And then it turns
to
into
powder.
a great compost that I
And good
mix
for
in with my
roses.
soil.
It kills the bugs.
It heats it up and then it grinds it up and it
Very
looks
fine.
like dirt
Powder,
afterwards.
powder.
But you're gonna use that locally and smallly.
Right.
Small,
That,
yeah.
Right.
So
That's a
the
home thing.
contamination that exists in that does not hit the stream.
Right.
I don't know how far back people's memories go, but this happened in the Intervale up in Burlington, and the whole place shut down, cost them
Yep.
hundreds of thousands.
Because it
of
wasn't
dollars.
controlled.
And there was some contaminated horse manure that somebody brought in from a farm. It ruined the entire facility. It didn't just knock out a batch, it killed the entire facility.
Gotta be careful.
So we're a little early on that. We're not, the state's kind of pulled their wings in a little bit because they need the, technology's got to catch up with it.
Understand it. Mm.
And the public needs to be educated a little bit more, how to handle it at the home before we turn it over.
I have a lot of videos and movies for them to watch.
Right now, everybody's throwing it in the trash. I see it all the time,
It's getting better.
except for the restaurants. The restaurants are mandated.
Well, if they had a
mandated.
food cycler, they would throw it in that.
And it
Well-
costs
In their
extra
kitchen.
money to do that.
As we've mentioned earlier with the folks who, if it's not easy and convenient, folks aren't, there's an enormous population that they're not watching videos. They're not educating themselves. They're certainly not spending $425 on a thing on their kitchen counter. And granted, there's a population that does, but this is the same population that sets up an appointment for their hazardous waste. These people are doing it anyways. It doesn't matter if we are enforcing it or not, they're doing it. What we are here to do is to facilitate the folks
That
who are
don't.
not
Yeah.
going to do it without an easy process, and that's what we're here for.
So we can't go around, oh, no, we can't do that because we don't.
What's
do
that?
That's Casella. They don't go around and pick up compost from people.
Just the commercial side. Casella's doing commercial and they do us. And then I guess some homes are on it, but it's an extra fee.
Middlebury has a home one where they
Right.
actually send around a horse and a wagon.
Yep, that's right. There's a
And
guy
so
up there.
that's kind of a niche market, and they've kind of figured out a gimmick that works. I don't know how successful it is with the product that's coming out, but it's a program that the guy and his horse has made sustainable for himself.
Put it this way, we're moving forward on that, but the state passed all this legislation. It was a little too quick because the population wasn't behind it to make it happen. So they had to go back, and now we're gonna have to re-educate people how to actually deal with that.
But at least industry is now on it. Like
Yeah, everybody's starting to get on it. but
the
we
commercial
won't see it
side is
100%
doing
yet.
it. The haulers are starting to get in place and all that stuff.
Yep.
Another
Okay.
5 years it'll be working,
Yep.
maybe 10.
Okay, obviously, there's no public And here it is, no more public comments. So I will entertain a motion to go in executive session. There is two motions we got to have to deal with issues with our attorney, on 3 different issues with the attorney that we need to talk about. So I'll entertain the first motion to go in executive session.
So moved.
No, you got to read it. We have to read it.
Ethan, you're the man.
Read the first paragraph,
There you go.
and you can read the second
Right.
one.
I can do that.
Make the motion to find that premature general public knowledge of the board's review of pending litigation and privileged attorney-client communications would clearly place the board at a substantial disadvantage, including by revealing privileged information and waiving attorney-client privilege.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
No other further debate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And now the second motion. Now the second motion.
Okay, we're not gonna go into executive session and talk about that step one.
Oh, no, those two motions got to happen before we go in.
Okay. I move
That's the
to-
new state law.
Okay, I move to enter into executive session to review pending litigation and attorney-client communications.
I hear a second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.